faith in times of trouble is tested, both the child and the concept. And the town is facing quite a bit of trouble, particularly the foundation. It's very easy to say, it's very easy to take credit for when things are going well, right? But when things start to kind of disintegrate, right? People are quick to place blame. And so it's very interesting how quickly the foundation of the foundation is crumbling in the face of trouble.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, to be fair, the trouble is pretty bad. Multiple people dying, multiple people seeing monsters. Not a lot of it is going right? You get to start, I mean, the whole story started because one of the initiation with Joy went very wrong. I mean, you could call it what it wanted. It didn't go right. And then a lot of the start of the story was really around the character of Toby, I think an audience favorite. But really the action was centering around Toby, culminating kind of in Toby joining the foundation, then Toby's eventual passing. But, that's the thing. Now that Toby's kind of passed, Eric went from being an object to kind of like Pinocchio, right? Became a real boy. Somebody that you could have essentially see as a human being with an actual spine, telling a bar to go fuck themselves on the behalf of his best friend Toby, and as a result, though, having to go, well, what is actually my identity? And I think that's one of the interesting parts about Eric is that kind of gain of identity that we've seen midway. And Rachel and Eric have to take really different approaches to faith missing as a result.
Yeah, I think you and I both gave Rachel and Eric a hard time in the beginning about their response to their kid missing, but we're finally seeing some action. We're seeing some movement. We're seeing some real motivation, which I'm finally very thrilled about. But, listen, in terms of Eric as a fellow immigrant, it is very hard to establish your sense of identity, and I don't envy him having to do that while married to Rachel and while his kid is missing. It's kind of a lot of balls to be juggling, and neither of them are light ones. But hey, it's time for us to check in on the decision. Whose side will Eric tell Xavier he's on? And the choice has not changed. There has not been a significant budge. We're still firmly in the faith path. Would I have been impressed if there had been a significant flip in the last couple of minutes? You betcha. But honestly, I'm just impressed folks are here, and I'm seeing a lot of, we're getting some chat highlights over here in our interface and seeing a lot of welcome back messages and some familiar names. So I just wanted to also say, thank you all for joining us. That's the real thrill, right? Is getting everybody back together. But now it's time for us to scoot on over to our counterparts in Norway. So if production would throw that graphic up for us. So here, Ingrid, matriarch of the Johansson family, dies under suspicious circumstances. Britt, Astrid's sister, so Astrid and Britt, both daughters of Ingrid, goes back to town to help with the funeral and search for Astrid's son, Orson. Detective Haugen and Orson's social worker, Aurora, are putting the pressure on Astrid about her missing son and potentially implicating her. Again, not a fun circumstance to be in.
No, but one of the things with Norway for me, right, is it's a slower buildup, right? There's like a kind of like the lost child mystery, in Pennsylvania, there's monsters about. So the lost child mystery with a cult and monsters about is very different to the one where there's some fog around, but fundamentally life is kind of normal-ish in Norway, right? I mean, okay, sure, there's the drama with Ingrid, but that's within the realm of normality, so to speak, right? There's some morphine found there, and then, found later with, I believe, Mede. There's some family drama with Carl and Mede, which we love, and unfortunately, I forgot one of the most important props we have for that one. But, it's kind of like the whole situation in Norway, right, is building up as the Johansson family kind of has to, I don't know if it's get together, I don't know if it's attack each other, I don't know if it's essentially who's stabbing who in the back or who's helping who is a little more complicated with this family.
Yeah, there's a lot of complicated history that I think we're uncovering right as we go along with Britt. I can't remember what the word was that our summary described her behavior as. It was either despicable or hooliganism or something. But we were trying to figure out what that bar was within this family. And I hate to say it, but I am such Eduardo. When you were talking about this family being normal, my brain started functioning in keychains, and all I could think of was because normal is only a setting on a washing machine, that old adage from the mid-2000s. We actually got a chat highlight here from Coyote Wildfire. Says, shall we all join the triangle-shaped self-help group? Under these circumstances, why not? I will personally be your needle bearer.
Well, fair enough. I mean, like, just I don't know. Like for me, or like, normal. For me, normal is dysfunctionality in a weird way, right? It's in a way, what's happening with them is not absurd. It is dark, and there are deeper problems at play. But they are a lot more down to earth, right? In the sense of, the child's missing. There's fog. Something's going up at the farm.
It's like a little absurd.
Sure, that's fair. But, that's the thing about the whole absurdity of the situation. And this is a horrible segue. But for all of you out here, one of the things is we're all catching up, right? So some of you might actually be new and returning. A lot of you have been fans and you're tuning into the hosted show because we're here. But a few of you might have, come in because you're anticipating the show. One of the things is if you're kind of new or returning and you're interested in more of the story, the catch-up section does have the full episodes in it as usual. Those are spoiler-free in the sense that you can watch them, catch up on all the details. Now, that said, for those of you who after this are like, I would kind of want to understand, but a little more quickly what's going on, we do have a 2023 recap video. It is a little longer, 7 minutes, but that's going to give you the highlights from what happened before the holiday breaks. I'll give you a refresher. That'll help you dive in back to the world of Silent Hill Ascension. But importantly, what happens to those characters, not up. Well, we're developers, I guess, up to us a little bit. But it's a lot up to you, the audience at home. You're deciding what's happening to them. You're deciding what their fates are. You're choosing how, if they get together or not. Literally, one of the decisions was that. We'll cover that in the post show. But because it's almost time for the show, you haven't had an endurance scene for a while, so we're going to rebrief you on those, Layla, as our production team's going to for that video on air, what you're going to see. Layla, if you could walk us through.
Absolutely. You get to endure another explanation of the endure scene. So one of our main story characters will enter an eerie room and advance slowly, only to find one of you, an audience member, dead. A ton of crawlers, insects with a human face, will appear. The only escape is to run up to a door towards freedom. You'll have to help the character shake off the crawlers, crawl through the barbed wire, and get out of there. Inputs will appear on screen for you to react to and help the character. Eduardo, would you like to expound on that a little bit?
Of course. So one of the things here is if a character fails too many of these endurance scenes, hope goes down. And the thing with characters' hopes is they functionally decide partly what their fate is. So fate decisions are kind of what you're deciding as an audience together, and hope is something a little more dynamic, what the character's feeling. So having low hope may make them not survive a future encounter, permanent death in the story. One of the things with the endurance scenes, we do give you quite a few influence points for taking part. But remember, it doesn't matter if you succeed or fail in the sense of it's part of the collective story. What matters from them is not the judgment on you as an audience member. It's that you're morphing and shaping the story as you take part and you get to see it. So that's the thing. We're not actually that far away from the show, I believe, Layla.
No, we're about 2 minutes out, as a matter of fact. I am jazzed. I am thrilled. The chat highlights have been making me laugh the whole time we've been talking, which is great. Chat, we missed you a lot. There's a rally going on for one of the decisions today. So, man, Ascension is back. I'm so jazzed to be here. Eduardo, would you mind giving us a recap on our way out?
Sure. So the big thing to remember here is kind of the actions picking up on both sides. And one of the big things before we had the break is that this was the first time we've actually had, really, Norway and Pennsylvania match completely at the same time. You've seen a lot of the same monsters across the larger pond, so to speak. But, Layla, that's the thing. We saw them together. And, that's important.
We did. We saw them come together finally, and now we get to see how those stories will continue to intersect. We love our moms coming through, looking for their kids, being dedicated even in the face of being trapped in the rusty hell, so to speak. I was certainly not an atmosphere I would want to be in or meeting new friends in. But yeah, things are converging, so to speak.
As they are with our lovely audience who is going to hopefully have a delightful show in a minute. Remember, I will be in the post-show with our returning guest, Stefan Bugay. Layla will not be with us, so I'm really sorry about that for the fans of Layla out there. I know you are there. Please voice out for Layla. Please let her know that she is loved. We love you all, audience. As a result, the show's in 30 seconds. We're going to say bye for now. We hope you have a delightful time, though. See you later, and enjoy the show.
To see me?
I was thinking of what you said to me when we were both lost in the withering.
I'm sorry if I was out of line. You're so important to the Foundation. I just wanted you to come back.
And I did come back. Eric, you did what you had to do to pull me out of my darkness. I've sworn my life to the Foundation and its people. I was failing them. I needed to hear it. But beyond your words, your spirit is what truly brought me back.
What do you mean?
You're a survivor, Eric. I only knew about the steel mill. I had no idea you'd suffered through so much when you came to this country. I've suffered too. My father was murdered right in front of me. Someone shot him in the chest, mistaking him for a thief who had just robbed a bodega.
I didn't know.
Not many do. I only share it with people I trust. He bled out on the street. There was nothing I could do to save him.
I couldn't save my mother either. I felt so powerless.
You were just a child.
I promised my father I would protect her, and I couldn't. Now I feel like I'm failing all over again with Faith.
You tried your best to find her.
It wasn't enough. I wasn't enough.
That's not true. Remember what Paul Radcliffe said. Our deepest pains one day turn into our strongest armor. Eric, what we went through made you a strong healer. I know you originally joined the Foundation because of Rachel, but she doesn't see your light like I do. Don't get me wrong. She's a fine member of the Foundation, but she's not a healer like you are. When it comes to the Foundation, I need you to put your faith in me. I need to know that you're committed to helping me stop the withering over everything else.
I'm sorry, Xavier, but the only reason I'm here is to find Faith.
Eric, you have to face the possibility that the withering took her, but you can help other families.
No. Not until I save mine. I saved you from the withering, didn't I? Then I can save her too.
Xavier, you're needed in the library.
I'll be right there.
you did back there. What are you doing here?
I can't find my daughter.
Wait, you lost your child too?
I've searched everywhere.
And now you're here looking for her?
I think I'm being punished.
For what?
Oh, God. My baby's out there with that thing.
Listen, I lost my son. It's been weeks, but I'm not giving up, and you shouldn't either. Maybe we can help each other. What's her name? Your daughter.
Rachel. 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 What's going on in here?
Where did she go? Is she here?
Who? Faith? You know she's not.
No, the woman. I just saw her, and Faith is still out there. And I think this is bigger than just our family.
Just slow down for a second. Who is this woman? What did she say to you? Let me help you.
You can't help me, Eric.
Who's that? A friend of yours? I'm Detective Sandberg. I work... Detective Haugen was my partner.
I'm not sure what you want to interrogate me about. I mean, I already turned myself in.
I'm not here to interrogate you. New information has come to light, and you are no longer a suspect in your son's disappearance.
Thank God. What did you find out?
I'm not at liberty to talk about it.
You said Haugen was your partner. Where is she?
I can't discuss all the details, but let's just say we discovered something in your case that caused the department to suspend her.
Why?
You'll have to ask her. In the meantime, you're free to go.
Is Faith still missing?
Barbara, I thought you left.
And now I've returned. I found what I was looking for.
What is it?
A way to stop the withering and find your daughter.
For true sight, and I must be sacrificed. I don't understand.
In order to find Faith, someone must lose an eye.
Whose eye?
Someone who is closely related to the one who is lost. In this case, Faith's mother or father, either you or Eric. You must decide.
I can't do something like that.
Our guest host for this post show. And I mean, Stefan, it's a delight to have you back.
I am delighted to be back. I'm delighted for everyone to be back and enjoying what we've got coming for them in the next several weeks.
Of course. So one of the things is, well, I mean, not going into several weeks, but focusing on what we just saw, we got to see more of Rachel and Astrid kind of together there, before they kind of stepped out of it at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the convergence has begun, and we picked that up in this block, and we will keep going. But we will also keep going with the stories of Pennsylvania and Norway, and what exactly is going on with the children and the foundation, and so on.
Yes, and we'll have an interview with you, Stefan, to kind of clarify this stuff. As a little anecdote as well, in that last scene, we saw a drawing that Astrid made. So I said, by the way, I actually lied. I said that you wouldn't have Layla on the show. I lied. That drawing, Layla did want to inform me, was actually done by her. So a little anecdote there.
So she's on the show in spirit.
She's on the show. I mean, we're literally in the show, but to the audience, when we say we're developers. Each day, you and other audience members can enter that cameo contest, have parts in the series. That's done with influence points. So yeah, do check it out. They close pretty regularly. And as a result, you can be part of the show, as you saw in one of the scenes. Now, Stefan, it's been a while since we had you on the show, and it's been a while for our audience in general after the holiday break. So if you can introduce a little bit about your role on Silent Hill Ascension for our audience.
For sure. Well, welcome back, everyone. Hope everyone had great holidays. I am the Chief Creative Officer at GenVid. I was responsible for pitching out Silent Hill Ascension to our friends at Konami, and then leading our wonderful creative teams in all things creative as we brought the project together, built it out, and presented it to all of you wonderful fans.
Wonderful. Thank you for being there. So I'm going to start, obviously you're in the hot seat. Big news, right? We are back.
We are back. We're back, and we're going to tell you the rest of this story, and you're going to impact how it all unfolds.
So that's the thing, Stefan. We're fully refreshed, right? We've all had a chance to take a break. Our audience, I hope as well, you've had some wonderful time and during the holidays. And unlike our characters where they weren't able to reunite with your families, you at home had that option. Now, what can audiences, Stefan, this is important, what can they look forward to for the remainder of this season without too many spoilers? Just a little bit of a sneaky.
So, somehow Astrid and Rachel are able to converge with each other. There's a cult, the Foundation, that has a hold on both Eric and Rachel in different ways. A whole town aligned against Carl and Astrid, missing kids to search for and find out what exactly happened to them, uncovering the dark secrets of both towns, and of course, all of you in the audience driving these characters towards their final fates. So I'd say there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, and you're correct, Stefan. We're going to come back to that concept, right? I mean, not just today and right now when we're talking to each other, but throughout the course of the season, the hosted show and within the show, right? We don't actually know 100% what's going to happen because the audience is going to have to kind of decide what that is going to be. Now, one of the things is, Stefan, before the break, we had a lot of story moments, but what was your personal favorite story moment before the break?
It's hard to pick one favorite. I personally still love the deaths of Joy and Ingrid. And it's funny to love deaths, but I love the scenes of the deaths of Joy and Ingrid because they hooked folks into our intriguing new expansion of the Silent Hill canon in the first place and set the table for all of what's to come in many ways. But more recently than that, I would say the death of Toby is a standout moment for me personally, because it was the first time that all of you wonderful folks out there in the fandom decided the fate of one of these poor characters.
No, for sure. And by the way, we're not going to re-put that scene with Joy. I think our audience has seen it a lot. But if you ever want to, it's in catch up. It's episode 1. I mean, I actually don't tired of watching Joy die. It is a pretty gruesome scene. Like, it does set the tone. Ingrid took a little bit more time, but Joy dying was right away. We know what we're in for. But you mentioned as well Toby. Now, Stefan, how do you? I know Toby's a fan favorite with the audience. So how do you personally feel about Toby's, ultimate demise here?
Well, the narrative designer in me is excited about a whole audience competing and collaborating to drive his fate, but the humanistic writer in me is disappointed that poor Toby didn't make it.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And that's the other thing, right? One of the things we actually had a chance to showcase, I believe during the interview with Augustine, was essentially an alternative end where Toby ran away and got to survive. That was one of the kind of alternative endings. And by the way, Stefan, just so our audience knows, obviously, on this show, we do prepare things. We do have things written up. This is actually a question a little bit off script, but I think Stefan's going to like it because one of the things with that alternative ending, Stefan, in just before the break, I had the chance to talk with Jacob. He mentioned the What If season. Can you explain a little bit about the What If season and how can fans look forward to that as well?
For sure. So, you saw in the previous hosted show, Augustine showing off an alternative ending for Toby where he ran away. The fact that he didn't is all your fault. And poor guy, you did him in. But the What If season is a alternative, non-canonical run back through the season where you will not be able to pick the choices that were made previously, but instead, as an audience, can choose from the other two choices that were not picked this season during the first run of this season, and see what happened. So it is literally a what if in the like comic book tradition, where it's like, what if this different choice happened? Well, what if that different choice happened?
Yeah, we're going to literally have, I think, given a lot of the redemption choices on the audience, a lot of bizarre world kind of dark twists and turns in that What If season as they continue as they are. But of course, like the first run is canon, so that's why it's important for all of you in the audience to take the choices you want to see happen, because that's what the episodes are made of, right? The What If season is going to be that alternative look, yes. But by the way, Stefan, should we be as an audience on the lookout for a little bit more, let's call the character endings?
Well, ultimately, they will all have their final moments, so I would say yes, you should indeed be on the lookout.
Yeah. So, one of the big things, by the way, is you know this, right? As you were behind the product, but for our audience at home, right, the fate and hope systems are really important, because that was the thing with Toby, right? The fate was redemption, but the hope was very negative, because I think he was one of the biggest featured characters at the start as people was getting to grips with the Endurance scenes. And we could see the difference with, say, Eric. Like, in that Endurance scene, it was super close. Eric ended up having the hope decreasing, but Eric's hope is really high right now. Like, when you look at it, it's sky high. People, I think the audience has really liked Eric so far, really connected with him since Toby's passing.
I think that makes sense. And, it's true. Both hope and fate matter. And as you saw with Toby, and so whatever character you happen to love the most, you should be out there involved, not just in their decisions, but also in their endure scenes.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, one of the things here, and by the way, I'm getting some Eric love in the chat, so lovely to see that. But one of the things is, we'll compare the two stories, right? We had the kind of scene where Rachel and Astrid were together, but again, there are some key differences, right? Because we saw more monsters appearing on the show, which I'm sure as horror fans at home, you're delighted to see. But now in Pennsylvania, we see them a lot more. The scenes are a lot more action-based. There's a lot more monsters, a lot more running away, a lot more, do I open the red door or not? But in Norway, it's a lot sort of to me, it gives me a little bit of a mystery vibe, right? Like what's going to happen. There are monsters, but it feels a lot more, not quieter. It's more about the unease. So if you could let us know a little bit more about that difference in pacing between the two locations.
For sure. I mean, the difference in pacing was deliberate. And as you say, in Pennsylvania, it's more upfront, in your face, a bit more actiony, or let's just say traditional horror, jumpy. And in Norway, it's a bit more moody and emotional. Not to say that there isn't big emotional action happening in Pennsylvania, but sort of in Norway, it kind of wears that tone a little more. And that comes from the story, because in Pennsylvania, we have a cult, and people react to monsters in the manner of true believers. Like, even if what they actually believe isn't the truth of what's happening to them, they are true believers. And so they're reacting to the presence of these monsters in their world in that way. Whereas in Norway, we have a town that's torn apart by a tragic past, and they're more entangled by their human problems and their feelings about each other now, although there is going to be more of a long build towards their own community perspective about the monsters and what's really happening to them.
Oh, so that's something for the audience to look forward to for sure as things progress, because the human side of the problems has to confront with what they're seeing in front of their eyes, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, we talked about the convergence quite a few times, right? It was like the last scene before the break. Also, in today's episode, people got to watch a little bit more Rachel and Astrid interacting. So could you explain the significance of that event? Because Pennsylvania and Norway have been, we saw the same monsters overall, but like relatively separate so far. So having them together is actually kind of it's a decent deal here.
Absolutely. I mean, it is the connecting together of the Pennsylvania and Norway storylines in a mysterious and intriguing way that goes into some of the deep lore that we developed for this particular take on the Silent Hill universe, and what's going on with our characters at a deeper level, at also a broader level. And it's going to be something that I don't want to tell the audience too much about what's going on, just that it's a core part of the story, but it's not one that we're necessarily going to wear everything on our sleeves. So for those of you who love the mystery and love the intrigue and love sort of digging in and postulating what you think about the truth behind the truth, that is going to provide you with some fun tidbits to chew on.
Yeah. So because there's different, it's true, right? There's different types of people that like kind of like watching horror shows. Some people do want a little bit more of that mystery. Others are like direct into the action. So we hope that whatever floats your boat, so to speak, at home, that you're having an enjoyable time with us here. Now, Stefan, the audience chooses a lot of what goes on. So last question for you before we kind of move on to some of our discussing some of our narratives so far here, because we're going to talk in a little bit, right, about this was something we did on I believe the Friday before the holiday break. We talked about some of the memorable audience choices, right? And that's from us at the hosted show team, that what we believe was fun, represented, whatever you would like to call it. Now for you, Stefan, what was the audience choice that was the most memorable for you?
Yeah, so again, it's a little hard for me to pick one most memorable, considering we've got a lot of interesting things going on. But I would say one of them was the decision about what to do with the evidence of Carl's guilt, because it was pretty memorable to me that you all chose to have Astrid rat out her dad to the cops, which I found kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, but I agree with you on that. It's a little bit like, come on.
More recently, though, when Eric told Krista that he was interested in her rather than remaining loyal to Rachel in these trying times when Faith is missing and the worst fears of all Foundation members seem to be coming true in the form of the Withering. I mean, extreme circumstances do change people in unpredictable ways, but I also thought that was a little bit interesting and maybe a little scandalizing.
Well, I mean, as you said, the faith is gone, right? So, sorry, the character, right? My bad. But that's twice I meant it's a terrible joke. Now, the thing with, now the thing is, one of the things on the hosted, I'm lacking the fan. Don't worry for hosted show fans specifically of our lore. One of the things we've loved as well is the Carl and Mete. Actually, we're going to throw up those decisions on screen. Our production stream is going to throw up the audience choices from kind of the before the break that, like, for us were really memorable, and kind of the first one that's going to appear on screen. Is like, how will Carl respond to Mete kissing him, and that you all chose to kiss her back. That was actually really close. I remember that being like a really close decision. Then like lovers pulled through a little bit at the very end. We'll discuss that in a bit. But like obviously for the host on the hosted show, this was a really fun moment. We say a scandalo, have the fans going, and don't worry, the fans will come back. Now the other two kind of other ones. One of the fun ones was like, how will Astrid react to her dead mother talking to her? This was one of my favorite decisions, because the audience has been mostly on redemption with Astrid, really been on the side of Astrid. I think the audience, I don't know if they relate or not to Astrid, but like she's a character that like you want to they've been on her side. They've tried to to see things in a way that makes sense for her and that go in that direction, right? Redemption. But for that one, where Ingrid shows up, they're like, you chose to demand an apology. So I love that. I love essentially talking back to the mother, like, enough of this BS, it's enough, and got to talk. But of course, the decision, I think, favorite, and I think the key moment, right, was what will Toby do for the severing ritual? I think we can all agree that was the decision of the first couple of weeks, right? And the audience chose sacrifice himself. Now that was very close, Stefan.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We like, could you tell, because so we're like obviously in front, the hosts, but like you were behind the scenes along with the rest of the development team. Can you say a bit about like what happened behind the scenes? Because I know our whole team was watching that one really closely.
Well, I mean, what happened behind the scenes was it was a close race in the points, and in the end, Toby chose to sacrifice himself. But at a deeper level, Toby. Any character's final fate is not determined by just one decision, but that obviously was a very important decision for Toby, because you've got the actual fate of the characters as determined by the fate and hope systems, as we talked about earlier, where Toby was redeemed, but his hope was very low, so he did not physically make it, although we can say that he at least had his redemption morally, right? Even though he died. And part of that path of redemption was Toby not being selfish and thinking only about himself in this moment, and trying to do something for the greater good, being self-sacrificing. And the audience choosing to push him in that direction was a very interesting and important character moment for Toby, as he was on his way to meeting what turned out to be his final fate for this canon universe.
No, for sure. And that decision was labeled Final Fate. I think that's one of the important things, right, Stefan, that the audience can look forward to. If something says Final Fate, I would be very careful with whatever that decision says.
Yeah, I mean, but it's important to note that is indicating to you that the Final Fate is now coming, and that this will be the final choice regarding fate that you get to make. But it is not this one choice is the only thing that's being considered when determining this character's final fate and their final outcome. There's the hope, obviously, as seen with Toby, but there are all of the fate choices along the way before we trigger the final fate decision have contributed to that character's final outcome. And then the final fate decision obviously is very important to that. It carries weight, but it's not 100% of determining that character's outcome.
Right. It's about a character's development, not their final decision. It makes sense,
Correct.
right? Right. But what was the path that kind of the character went down? That's right. Okay. So as a result, right, we're going to talk about a decision that opened today. So again, not a final fate decision, but it is a fate decision. So that's going to be on screen. It's going to be how will Astrid find out what happened to Hagen? And the options are, going to Hagen and grill her for the truth, offer an olive branch, or eavesdrop on her. And again, right, redemption, suffering, damnation, in the sense of what you're deciding Astrid does is part of her character development, and that's going to ultimately decide what happens to her. But I find Astrid to be an interesting character, because Rachel is kind of like working within the confines of a cult, and it's kind of a difficult one to operate. But Astrid has to essentially contend with kind of like the family drama, so to speak, right? The sister has to contend with her dad and coming back together with Mete, just going like, what the fuck is? She's just like, the sun's missing, everything's going to pieces, and then like, what the fuck is this? Is that really? Which I actually really like the character. Like I think there's a lot of like her development arc is fascinating in terms of like what she has to deal with and how she has to navigate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Astrid comes into this situation with no conception of horror as a thing that might be real beyond sort of like the standard human thing. Terrible things might happen in my life, and they have happened in Astrid's life. But so she's really dealing with this at a pure humanistic emotional level initially. And, the very notion that there might be horrors that manifest in whatever way as monsters, as this encroaching fog, is completely new. And what she is having to deal with is that impinging upon her life while she is trying to deal with these very deep emotional issues of her mother's death and her child's disappearance, and what's happening to her father. Is he falling apart? And obviously, like, the whole family, the whole town are going through a variety of things that Astrid has to deal with. And she comes from being this very put together, rational person in response to things in her past, and is seeing all of that torn up in front of her and having to react to that. Whereas Rachel, on the other hand, is perhaps not the most likable character in the world, but is in an interesting situation, being someone who is a true believer and is confronted with the possibility that what they truly believe is in fact true. But at the same time, be
careful what you wish for, essentially, here.
But at the same time, maybe not necessarily personally beneficial. And the terrible things that she's going through may be penance manifest, may be that she is some kind of cursed vessel that must be destroyed. It may be simply that what she believes is wrong and she's been taking terrible actions. All of these things we've put on the table for this character to wrestle with, and for you in the audience to wrestle with when that comes up in choices, to help shape that character. So I think they're both interesting characters in different ways. I think Astrid, for a lot of people, is more perhaps relatable, but I think Rachel is in a situation that is very realistic, where you may have bought into the tenets of an organization out of true faith, or because it's what is going to keep you safe and perhaps prosperous in your society, and then you see that falling apart and you're not sure where to go, and you see it impacting your personal life in these terrible ways, and you're wondering, on one level, do I deserve this? But on another level, how do I save my family and myself? And I think like they're both going through that sort of broad arc of everything's falling apart and how do I save my family and myself, but from two very different perspectives that I think can be, there's a saying in screenwriting school, which is characters don't need to be likable, they just need to be interesting. And I think Rachel is also an interesting character that has a lot wrestle with, and a lot of interesting choices and dilemmas to present to the audience.
Yeah, and I mean, one of those big choices coming up, right? Because I mean, sacrificing your eye, not the easiest decision to make, but that's the audience to choose, right? It's between burning the book, sacrificing the eye. Now, I know what I would do if I had a dark book telling to sacrifice an eye, but you, the audience, might have different things, and Rachel might believe differently, and that's what matters. Because, you know, as you were saying, Stefan, right, about their character developments, the thing is, it's, you know, it's for our audience to kind of write in the remaining pages, so to speak. So again, one of the things as we end our show is normally I, you know, recap a bit the story, but Stefan, you've been here. So as a result for our audience, I hope that was a good insight into kind of what's going on, the characters, and what to look forward to. So as well, I don't really need to recap. See, my job is easy. Now, I want to thank Stefan for his time, because my job was easy because you were here. So thank you so much, Stefan, for being the guest here.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to all of you fans out there that are watching and participating. We do this for you, and we're excited that you're excited.
Excellent. So again, for everybody here, now we're going to talk about our next shows briefly. Our next shows that's going to be up on stream with a production team Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So we're going to appear as hosts on the pre-show at 5:40 p.m. Pacific. Next Wednesdays. The show, though, is every day at 6 p.m. Pacific. So tomorrow, 6 p.m. Pacific, tune in, new episode. And then there's usually a post-show right after on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays when we do have that. Now, Wednesday specifically, today we wanted to catch up on the story, make sure you're up to speed. Wednesday we'll catch you up on some of the more, so to speak, technical updates, what we've done on the development side, what's been going on, kind of let you know the improvements that have been coming up on the up and up in Silent Hill Ascension. So we'll get to fill you in at that time. In the meantime, remember, because you're coming back, remember that puzzles do raise hope. So you do get access to those whenever you feel like it. So if you're returning or you're a new user, the Arcane Library awaits you as soon as this broadcast ends, and then you have a chance to go in, do some puzzles, raise the hope of the featured characters within there. All that said, this was Eduardo. I was joined by Stefan. Again, thank you so much for being here. And I was joined by you, the audience. It was a wonderful time having you back. But for now, we're going to sign off. I will personally see you in not quite Wednesday. I should be back Friday, but you'll see Layla and Noah, for Noah fans out there. She'll be back in action, hopefully, on Wednesday. And we have, obviously, surprises for you in our shows. Don't miss tomorrow's episode, 6 p.m. Pacific. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. It was a pleasure being here with you. Bye-bye.
Bye.